Good evening and welcome. I am Bob Pace. I'm your host tonight, and thank you for joining me in my podcast, Fight CPS, Stop Taking Our Children. So for some of you that don't know who CPS or what CPS is, I call it the Child Protection System. It's a government entity that's a branch of social services that is supposed to do the following. It's supposed to help families in need, such as with food, clothing, education, medical, housing, and a job. It's also supposed to protect our children from neglect and abuse. Neglect and abuse. Furthermore, if this branch of the child protection system decides that your children are in imminent danger, they may take your children, break your family apart. So they're supposed to do what's called family reunification. That is very, very important because the best parents are the biological parents. Now, you found me on Facebook, Fight CPS Bob Pace, and I'm glad that you're in this room tonight. Now, I'm on 7 days a week, twice a day. I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time for 1 hour. At nighttime, I'm on at 7 p.m. for 1 hour. There is an exception. Every Sunday, I come on 2 hours early, so I go with my family for the church. So on Sunday, I'm on 2 hours early. I come on at 8 o'clock. But other than that, I'm on those regular times. Now, there may be a time that I may have to change my time there. And I'll let you know. This being the football season, my son's involved, and Friday Night Lights is Friday nights, and game time is usually at 7 o'clock, which is my 7 o'clock podcast. So this Friday, I'll be broadcasting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that I go with to cheer my son on, who's playing a game at 7 p.m. Friday night. So this Friday, I'll be on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, I'm glad you found this room, and there are 4 ways you can interact with this podcast. One way is just by being in this room. When you join this room, you can listen, take notes, and further, you can also do emojis. You can do a thumbs up, hearts, smiley faces, or stars. You can pledge stars to help support this podcast. Also, down below, please subscribe to my podcast, and further, check the notifications so you know when I'm on. So this podcast is supposed to help all of you. I'm not an attorney. I'm a loving father, been married 31 years, and I have 6 children, 3 older ones, 3 younger ones. And I, too, was caught up in CPS. Started for me in 2010. In 2015, my 3 children were taken into foster care, and they weren't in imminent danger. I'll talk more about them later. Now, let's say a question comes up on your mind or a comment. You can also, with this podcast, I'm using the StreamYard application broadcast on YouTube, so you can leave comments. Now, to leave a comment, all you do is you type in your comment or your question. Make sure it pertains to CPS. It's very important that we talk about CPS because that's what we're here for. All I ask you to do is show your name. And what I mean by showing your name is that some of you may have a name on Facebook that maybe says rocket scientists or psychedelic hippos or dancing butterflies are Gone with the Wind. If you do, I like to use a name like Jim, John, Mary, Sue, Betty, those kind of names. Just your first name only. Then that should follow by your city. And if you don't want to give your city, please give your county and state. It's very important I try to pin where all the questions are coming from. I've got a metal picture of where the good CPS is, and I'm afraid the bad CPS is, and I see more bad than good. Now, I also I'm open to countries because countries have text into me. This is a worldwide podcast. And if you're from a country, feel free to text in and we'll try to answer your question. They too have a CPS issue or problem. And so far, I've heard from Bangladesh and New Delhi, India. I've also heard from a country in the Middle East, but it was all in Arabic, so I couldn't make out the country name. Then the continent of Africa, I've had Liberia in the northwest on the coast. On the south, I've had the province on the west side of South Africa. And then a little country called Rwanda in the central East Africa near Lake Victoria. They too had a disaster in 1994 where 1 million people were killed and murdered when they had a civil war there. Also, 500,000 females were raped. It was a very bad civil uprising, but it's over now. And so there's that country, then Mozambique, which is on the east side, down from Somalia, up from South Africa, across from Madagascar. Then you go over to the Europe, and I've had England, Scotland, and Wales, which is all part of the United Kingdom, and I've had Denmark and Sweden. Then across the pond, I've had North America. I've had several of the Canada provinces, including British Columbia, Vancouver, Alberta, and so forth. I've also spoke to the Indian tribe in Canada. They call themselves the First Nation. In the United States, we call our Indians the Native American Indians. They were the first immigrants to the United States. And so I've also talked to all kinds of people, and I'll tell you more important what the Indian part is, because for a long time, for over 150 years, they've been hurt really bad, and promises have been broken and stuff. And they too have a child protection system that is supposed to protect their children too. Then we go further south in the United States, and I've had all 50 states, including Washington, D.C., that have all either called or texted in. Over 500 people so far. Then south of the border, I've had Mexico, a person calling from Mexico City, looking for his daughter in Louisiana. And then down in South America, a country called Guyana on the west coast. And on the west coast, the east coast of South America, east of Venezuela, north of Brazil. And they have a coastal town called Georgetown. Then we go across the Pacific and the land down under, and I've had several comments in from Australia, 7 of their provinces. They've come in there. I think one from the Gold Coast on the west side of Australia, and then I think in the area of Bells, Melbourne. I think that state is called Victoria. So we have an international flavor, and I welcome everybody about CPS. We all have to be kind to one another. This is a hard thing to go through. I know from firsthand experience what it did to me and my family and how disruptive it did to your life and everything. So that sounds great. Okay. All right. Well, I've go ahead and I got 2 more things. I have a guest here I did not know of. Her name is Elizabeth. I'll get her aboard. 2 other things that you can interact with this podcast. One is to be a guest on my podcast, which we have one tonight. There are possibility for 9 openings, including me, as 10. Now, be a guest. All you have to do is email our show producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. Send in either you want to be on my morning show, evening show, and Monday through Sunday. There are 14 possibilities. And so she will tell you and give you a link of what you can do. We do not allow eating or smoking, and we do not use the first names of children, judges, or social workers. And then the last thing I have is my phone number. But since we have a guest here, we'll see how it goes here. You can call in. There's no problem there. There's no problem there. Okay. Let's see if we can get her camera going. Elizabeth, you're set to go, Elizabeth? Okay, I'm going to bring you aboard. I just gave an introduction to how they interact, so I'm going to add you now. Okay, great. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
And Elizabeth, I'm Bob Pace, and I give you a warm welcome. I'm glad that you emailed Grace, and she made arrangements of how to be on the podcast.
Yes.
It looks like your lighting's good. Your microphone is good. I can hear you quite well.
Wonderful.
And I'm going to have you talk about your case and how we can maybe help you and so forth there, because I know how hard it is. And I appreciate you going from everybody, because you're worldwide right now. You're seen by 13 countries in all 50 states. So you're a popular person now. And so I'm going to let you take over now and let you talk about your case. Okay, Elizabeth? And also,
Awesome.
where are you from, Elizabeth?
So I'm from Orange County, California.
Okay, you're in my county. You're in my neck of the woods. All right.
Yes.
I know Orange County quite well. Well, let's everybody give her a warm welcome. And Elizabeth, go ahead, and you have the show now. You can talk.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, my name's Elizabeth. I am a single mother of 5 children. I have 5 children. I'm a single mom, ranging from ages 8 to 19. I have 3 daughters and 2 sons. I currently have a case open against me based on false allegations of physical abuse with the Orange County CPS agency out of the Lamricks courtroom in the city of Orange. They removed all 3 of my children from my custody. It's been extremely frustrating. It's been absolutely disheartening. I am speechless at the corruption and the level of corruption in CPS.
You really are encountering that. Now, do you have a husband or a boyfriend, or what is your relationship
No,
with the father of the
no,
children?
I have a restraining order
Okay,
against the father
so are
till
you now?
2020.
Is the father still involved with your daughters?
No, he's in prison. He's been in
Oh,
prison for 12 years now.
oh boy, oh boy.
Yes.
Okay, and what are the ages of your children now?
8, 12, 14, 18, and 19.
Now the 18's an adult, right?
18 and 19-year-old son and daughter, yes, they're adults.
Yeah. Now the 18, 19 are not in CPS's custody, right?
No.
Okay, good. So
So
we got the
yes,
younger ones. Okay.
the 3 younger ones. I have my court hearing tomorrow, September 17th.
Wow.
That would be my second hearing. My first hearing was August 23rd. And basically, they are alleging that I physically abused my children, even though they took them to Chalk Hospital in Santa Ana, and the pediatrician or the doctor that saw them based on the reports that they didn't have any broken bones or no bruises, no scrapes, no physical harm to my children. Yet they are saying that I physically abused my children.
Okay. Now, the first court hearing, what was that about?
My first court hearing was an absolute joke because they had me go to the second floor for my hearing. I was there from 8 till almost 3 p.m. waiting. Then they served me with the initial hearing paperwork of 171 pages minutes before my hearing, which you can't read 171 pages right before you see the judge. And so, they set me up for failure
Well,
there.
were you given a court appointed attorney?
I was given a court-appointed attorney. However, they didn't give us enough time to speak in regards to the allegations
Right.
that therefore for her to communicate with me and talk to me about what was in the 171 pages on that report. So that Friday, CPS didn't like the judge that was on my case. So they requested another judge. When I asked my public defender why they requested another judge, and she said, well, because the judge we had initially would have given you your kids back, but this other judge might not give you your children back.
Wow. That is really sad because
That's from my public attorney. That's what she said to me.
right now, did you uh, see with the court appointed attorney, which is they CPS hopes you use because they have a caseload of 30 or more clients. They don't have time to meet with you out of court or
Mhm.
talk to you about your case, and they will not fight. They're not dependency attorneys. They're attorneys in criminal just starting out. They're not very aggressive. How is that court appointed attorney?
Well, I don't know if she quit or whatnot, but after that hearing, gave me another business card and she said, I'm not going to be your attorney anymore. Here's another attorney, public defender that's going to take on your case. Because I was trying to advocate for myself and giving her the information that the claims were that I was physically abusing my children. And what actually occurred is the day of the incident, I actually live in luxury apartments that have very strict curfew rules. After 10 p.m., you have to be very quiet or else they'll send security and you're going to be in trouble and breach your lease. So I heard my 12 and 14-year-old daughters being loud at 1 in the morning. So I headed over there and they were awake instead of sleeping, which they should have been asleep. And I asked them to give me their phones and to go to bed. My 12-year-old, no problem. She gave me her phone. My 14-year-old refused to give me her phone and then proceeded to physically attack me. My neck was bleeding. I had bruises everywhere, scratches everywhere, bleeding everywhere, scrapes everywhere, ripped half of my hair out because she didn't want to give me her cell phone. This is my
That
14-year-old
is
daughter.
awful. Now, is this a shelter that CPS has put the kids in?
They actually gave them to my sister who doesn't
Okay.
have children, and her husband refused to give her any children. And so now she has my children. She has the children she always wanted now, which are my children.
Now,
But
did you give permission to have, see, when they take, okay, how did they first approach you about taking your children? Was,
actually, the I didn't know my sister had. I didn't know social services had given my sister custody of my children when they put them in protective order. I didn't know that. And I kept texting my sister, hey, do you have my children? Hey, do you know where, my children are? And by name, like what's going on? I send messages to everyone in my family. No one would tell me where my children were and who they were placed with.
well, I'm kind of confused. Can you start at the very beginning how you're approached by CPS? Was it a
So,
phone call or was it a
no,
visit to your home?
they came in person. And when they came in person, the social worker said that he had a warrant. And when I asked to obtain the warrant signed by a judge, his hands started shaking and his voice started cracking. And he said, "Well, I don't have." Well, I don't have a warrant. So I'm like, so you're lying to me then. So you just claim to have a warrant and now you're saying you
Well,
don't
did you
have a
open the
warrant.
door? Did you open the door?
I didn't. I was speaking to him through the little people. I was looking and I said, I don't want to speak to you. And he said, well,
You
I
don't
have,
have to. You don't
yeah.
have to.
And he said he had documents for me. And I said, well, I'll take the documents, but I'm not going to have a conversation with you. And I don't consent to you coming to my house. You already said you had a warrant. Now you lied to me and you don't
That
have the
is really good.
warrants,
See, also, you can say that you need to speak to your attorney before you go any further.
which is what
You
I
can
told
pretend
them.
you have an attorney. You don't have to say you have a court appointed attorney. You can say, I need to speak to my attorney because your civil rights say that you're allowed to have an attorney through all the legal proceedings present and who can
Correct.
recommend anything like that. There's one thing that I don't know if you've been listening to my podcast, but I tell people don't answer the door no matter who it is, even if they
Right.
knock or what it is. Best thing to do is back away from the door, get someplace safe in your home, and then after a period of time, they will leave, and they will usually leave a business card or something to contact them. At that time, that's when you want to talk to a attorney,
Hmm.
and it's very very important that you do so,
Right.
because the court appointed attorney, uh, the children have them and you have them, and now is this the father incarcerated? Does he have any involvement with the children at all?
Not at all.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about it. Now, are you the mother and is he the father of all your children?
No.
So you have different fathers. Are those
Yes.
fathers involved?
No. I would say my son Richard, who's 8, his father will see him like once or twice a month. But I did tell CPS that he has court ordered visitations on Friday and Saturday. 3 weeks, about 4 weeks ago, he didn't make, as usual, his visitation on Friday. So I phoned him and I said, hey, my son really wanted to see you. You promised to see him. He said, well, I'll come Saturday. He phoned me on Saturday around 7 a.m. and he told me, I'm going to have to cancel again. And I said, well, that's really sad because he really was looking forward to see you and hang out with you.
Wow.
What are you going to do? He said, well, I'm going to go with my coworkers. He's a truck driver, by the way. I'm going to go with my coworkers to the desert on the like the Razor, the Can-Am, and go off-roading. I said, so are you choosing your coworkers instead of your son? You haven't seen him in a long time. You promised him yet last night when you spoke to him to see him. Well, the father got mad and he said, well, you know what? I'm just going to take him with me. And I said, absolutely not, because when you go with your coworkers, you guys get really drunk and you're not going to actually spend quality time with him. You're just taking him for the sake of saying that you saw him, not because you want to spend time with him. Well, that day that he did not pick up our son, because even though he had a court order visitations, I refused to allow him to take him because he drinks. He actually got involved in a serious accident with that off-roading truck, flipped it several times and lost 3 fingers. So if I would have let him take my 8-year-old son, my son would not be here.
Wow. Wow. Sounds like
Um,
you've had a rough life. Now, how are the other two children doing? The older children, the 18 and 19-year-old, are they living at home with you or are they living
yes,
somewhere else?
they're with me.
So they're taking care of you.
Yeah, they're being supportive. My daughter's being supportive. My son initially was not being supportive because he believed my daughter. And so he took on her side. And when I showed him, look at my injuries, look at my neck bleeding, look at all these bruises, look at all these scratches, look what she did to me, and over time he's like, you know what? I wasn't present when it happened. I was just taking her word, so I took her side. But
Yeah, I can understand that, but you have a 14-year-old that is a thorn right now in your side.
yes,
And that can be a problem, especially with teenagers.
yep,
You
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
and the thing is, cell phones are everything to these children nowadays. They can't live without their phone, you know? And so, like I told my public defender. I was trying to be a good mom and make sure that they were sleeping like they should have, and remove their devices because they shouldn't have had them. And I was just making sure that they would go to sleep and get the phones taken away. And and then I got assaulted. And so now you guys are basically uh, falsely accusing me of doing to her what she did to me. So yeah, it's been pretty disappointing. Social workers have now canceled my visits 3 times in a row. So this Saturday, I was supposed to meet my children at 9 a.m. at the Yorba Linda Regional Park. At 9 a.m., at 8 a.m., my worker called and canceled. Last Saturday, I was supposed to meet them at 9 a.m. at a park in Fullerton that they decided for me to meet the children. She also emailed me an hour before, a short notice, and canceled the weekend after before that. So they just keep scheduling visitations for me to see my children, and then they cancel them last minute. And they said, oh, well, the child didn't want to wake up because he was tired. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, that's, even my public defender emailed me and she said, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous excuse for them to cancel your visitations.
Well, they're going to do that. You have to understand what you've done in Orange County. I know firsthand because I was there at the Orange courts. My children were taken from me, from our family. They weren't in danger, but they were taken and put in the prison, put in the shelter, the Orange County shelter, right next to the juvenile prison, near the
Yeah.
courts. And you can walk to the courtroom.
Yeah.
Also, I did not, at that time, I had lost my job through no fault of my own. So I didn't have money for an attorney at that time. I had to sell my home to get an attorney. But a court appointed attorney, I did not see what I know now, 15 years later. If I knew what I knew now, I would never have my kids taken from me. If they're not in imminent danger, they can't take your children. Imminent danger means that there's harm to them. Now, if you're physically abusing them, they got to show that there's physical abuse happening with them.
You're
Now,
right.
going back to the time the initiator came to your door, how far did they get with that first visit?
I told them that they can talk to my attorney. And they were very upset because not only did they lie about the warrants, but I was not willing to have them interview me and communicate with me. And I said, I don't have nothing to say to you. You can speak to my attorney. You already lied to me about having a warrant. You couldn't, provide that warrant for me. And so they were very upset. And they said that I was being, what was the report saying, that I was being uncooperative and erratic. So I said, since when is
Well,
advocating for yourself?
they're going to try and make you mentally impaired.
Yeah.
The problem is in the Orange County, I know firsthand because I've spoken to the director there. I've seen the Taj Mahal building where he works. It looks like the Emerald City of the Wizard of Oz. And I've had meetings with the directors and all their supervisors. I had a bad run in with them. For 5 years, I was avoiding them because what I didn't know, there's two kinds of people that can make allegations: professionals and lay people. Now, do you know who made the allegations?
My daughter.
Okay, your daughter. Okay, she's a layperson. Professional people are trained, like teachers, principals, policemen, doctors, nurses, caregivers. They're all trained. They know what is abuse and neglect, and they're required by law to report it. But the other group of individuals, which 50% of them are false allegations. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my my wife's brother, and 3 sisters made complaints for 5 years when I lost my job.
Mm-hmm.
And the complaints were so bad. There's
Mm-hmm.
stupid things like we didn't feed our kids. They didn't go to school. I mean, I showed them grade reports. I showed them my house. I showed them my refrigerator. They couldn't find anything wrong for 5 years. And so they were determined to get me because why? They like people that are low income. They like people that maybe have lost a job or in between jobs. They like people that don't know anything. Nobody knows about CPS.
Right.
The child protection system, or in California, it's the Child Protection Services, is a bad agency. They were getting $20,000 per child of mine. That was 3 children, $60,000 a month
Right.
that the Orange County was getting to supposedly
Mhm.
help take care of my three children, my two boys and a girl. But they
Right.
were put in danger. They were put in danger and exposed to. Are you okay? You have to move to another part of the.
Yeah, I just want to get my documents here. Sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
so
Take your
basically,
time.
I just wanted to get my documents out of the way,
Yeah,
so nobody can read
right.
them. But yeah, basically, that's what they do. They want to take children away because this is a business. This is a transaction for them. This is
Yes,
not
it's a
because they
trillion
care
dollar
about
business,
children.
by the way.
This is
It's
about
trillion
money for
dollars.
them. This is about
Yes.
money for them. And that was very apparent to me. Um, I actually, because they won't let me see my children and they would refuse to approve anyone that I requested for my children to be placed with, that I have a healthy relationship with, which is the maternal grandparents, my father and mother. I gave them the names, date of births, phone numbers.
Why did they
I
zero in on your sister, or did your sister have a vendetta against you and wants to adopt
She
those
has a
children?
vendetta against me because I'm 38. She's a year younger than me, and her husband, the man that she married, told her that he doesn't want any children. And so, because she's always wanted children, and he refuses to have a baby with her, she figured I'll just take her children.
Did you bring that up to the attorney to tell the judge that your sister husband does not want any children, that it's a bad environment?
That's what I told the social workers and everybody in the email. I said, why would you place my children with an individual who doesn't like children and doesn't want to have children of his own? That doesn't make sense to me.
And what did they
Um,
say? What did they say?
they will not respond to any of my emails. I
Oh,
actually had a meeting last Wednesday. I requested in a meeting with my two social workers and their two supervisors. And I told them that I had not gotten any clarification, any honest communication with my two workers, and that I had been requesting that my children be placed with my parents, or that I would move out of my own place so that my children could live in my home and not be living somewhere else, to make my children have this as stable as possible, because I live in Orange County and they placed my children in LA County with my sister in Norwalk. I live in Placencia, so my children have to wake up extra early to come to your Belinda Placencia School
well,
District
wait a minute.
for
Why?
school.
Why would um, they're they are really trying to buffalo you? And you're a smart woman. How did you know about not letting take your children without a warrant? How did you know that?
I watch a lot of videos about how to protect yourself from police officers or social workers or anyone, any government agency that comes to your door without a warrant. They're not allowed to come into your home. So when he told,
Wow.
when the social worker said that he had a warrant, I said, okay, show me the warrant. And I actually recorded this man. His voice started shaking and his hands were shaking. And he said, actually, no, 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 I don't have a warrant. I knew he
That's a
didn't have
bluff.
a
They
warrant.
lie. You know,
They will
see,
lie. They lie through their
they lie.
teeth.
In fact, there was a case in Orange County where the judges were investigating the lies of social worker. My social worker lied really bad. In fact, she did revengeful on my family. She convinced her 12-year-old son to emancipate from her mother and dad and her family. She divorced us, divorced her brothers, divorced her grandparents, her aunts and uncles, and all her cousins. And she was told to change her name, seal her birth certificate, and be adopted into foster care. That was revenge by the social worker after the
Oh
social
no.
worker committed perjury on the stand when my wife's sister and husband are trying to adopt our daughter. And she lied about the no domestic violence, which my attorney and I hired Mr. Davis, who was my
Right,
attorney. And he pulled out all these police reports and shot the social worker down. She was so embarrassed. So believe
right.
me, I know exactly what you're going through. What I knew now, I knew not later. Now, did you think about having your own pediatrician for your children examine your daughter for any kind of abuse, physical abuse?
I didn't even think of that because the doctor that looked at my children at Chalk Hospital said that there was no bruises or any marks
Okay.
or,
You
I
got to
was
be
like, what?
careful because they will lie. They'll if it's performed by CPS, they will pay the doctor off. You
Oh,
see, you don't understand what goes behind the scenes. They pay bonuses to people. They pay the judge. They pay the attorneys representing social services. It's
uh-huh.
very corrupt. And
Right.
those
No, I
judges, by
know.
the way, are not appointed, they're elected. So, this being election year, you need to vote for a right kind of judge. They need to be a dependency lawyer background. Dependency
Mm,
juvenile family law is what you're involved in. And
right.
have you ever heard of Vincent Davis?
You know, my hearing is tomorrow,
I
and
know it's too late, but
I just signed a retainer about an hour ago, and he's going to show up tomorrow, and they're going to be shook when they see him come to the courtroom.
oh, you getting Vincent Davis?
I retained him as my attorney.
Oh, thank
They're
God. I was
going
going
to,
to tell you is that
they
you
when they see him walk into that courtroom tomorrow, my public defender, the children's attorney, the social workers, when it comes to my children.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. So you went ahead and retained Mr. Davis.
I
And for
did.
all you listeners out there,
I
Mr.
did.
Davis, and I have a deal with Mr. Davis that anybody can talk to him for a consultation for 30 minutes for $60. And he will talk to you, but he also can be retained. The number for
Yes.
the law office, Vincent W. Davis Associates, is 888-888-6582. That's the office. Now, there's a
Yeah.
little ticket running on the bottom of my screen. I don't know if you guys can see it, but any of you listeners out there that if you want to book a discounted Zoom consultation with attorney Vincent W. Davis for 30 minutes for $60, you go to that webpage, https:// it's Candly, CALENDLY.com/apps, APTTS/VWD/Bob Pace, BOBPACE. I'm only telling you that not necessary for you, Elizabeth, but for all the listeners out there, because it's very, very important that you need a attorney. Now, Mr. Davis has over 35 years of experience in fighting um, child protection and getting the children
Absolutely.
back. I
Yeah.
do want to recognize a guest in the room, and her name is Faye Manley. She's from West Virginia, Richmond, West Virginia. She's a single mom. She's trying to get custody of her 23-year-old son. She's in a very corrupt state, and she just, after 12 years of fighting them, finally got her case reopened because she has a daughter who was taken from her through no fault of her own. Now, Faye did say something here that maybe you all can read. I'll put it up there. Trained people are the worst type to accuse of abuse with no abuse existed. Doctors do it all the time, hence medical kidnappings. I understand that. So that is Faye, and she's listening in from Richmond, Kentucky, as well as other people in this room. They may not be saying something in there, but I do have guests in there. So
Uh,
yes, go ahead.
I wanted to tell you quickly that I requested a meeting, I was beginning to tell you, with my two social workers and their supervisors last Wednesday. And in order to try to address my concerns about this continuous issue of them canceling my visitations with my children and not approving or assessing or doing a soft background check on my parents, who, you know, are amazing people, so my children can be in their care. However, they have approved the paternal grandmother, which the father, I have a restraining order against the father, and the paternal grandmother doesn't have a relationship with my son. And she got her three children moved by CPS and lost custody of these children, I believe. And they're allowing her to monitor his visits. And when I went to this meeting and I questioned them, they quickly admitted to committing a error, and they apologized to me. They said it was an error on their parts, that actually my mother was the one that was approved and not the paternal grandmother. And I said, this is why I wanted this meeting, because I knew that you guys were committing all sorts of discrepancies in my case, oversights, errors, and there needs to be accountability. And me advocating for myself and being assertive is not me being, rude or mean in any way, type or way. I've been polite. I've been patient. I've been trying to articulate the best way possible what my concerns are. And, they admitted that they made a mistake when vetting and assessing the people to be the monitors for the supervised visitations for myself and the dad. And so these people are constantly making mistakes. They don't want to be held accountable. They don't want you to tell them that they made a mistake, but they did apologize to me and they admitted to making an error in my case. And
Well,
then they wanted
Vincent
me to
will
sign
get your
a,
children back. He will get your children back because you got yourself probably the best attorney to get in the country. He has a case up in Northern California. He has several cases in the Orange County area, LA area,
yeah,
out San Bernardino and so forth. He has one case in Oklahoma, but he'll fight anywhere. And he also does civil lawsuits. He
yes,
can
which I'm
actually
planning
sue
on
them.
suing. I'm planning on suing CPS after I get my children back for what they did.
Right, right. When your case is over, you can sue them. I could have sued him. Mr. Davis was my attorney. I sold my home to get him hired. That's how important it was to get my family back together. But we couldn't get our daughter when she emancipated. You see, when they turn 12, it's really dangerous with teenagers. Now, I do have a son who's 25, who's 15 at the time, but he was behind his dad and mom. And my youngest one was 9 at the time. He's 18, he'll be 19 this Friday. But I have 6 children, 3 older ones and 3 younger ones. And I know exactly what you're going through. And Vincent Davis is a trial attorney. He's a trial attorney. And he is good. I had him, as I told you. He caught my uh, social worker in a lie.
Right.
And so it was really, 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 really hard. And I'm so glad that you're going to be defended tomorrow there in Orange County. That
Me
Orange
too.
County, and I don't know who the judge you have, but we can't use names here on the show.
No.
But my judge knew nothing more about dependency law. All he knew about was collisions, car accidents, and how to do body repairs. He knew nothing about family reunification. You see, CPS is supposed to take children only if they're in extreme danger. And an
Right.
accusation like you physically abused your daughter, then if the daughter's examined and she's not physically abused, then she still should be in your custody. Now, if you're
Right.
having trouble with that daughter, you may have to get professional help on that. But CPS is going to make you do all kinds of things, all kinds of parenting classes, all kinds of programs and everything. So I admire you. I am so impressed what you've done so far. And I really want Vincent Davis, I want you to keep me abreast because there's a girl named KK in Brooklyn, New York, that has the CPS on the ropes. She finally flushed them out and got information. And Faye, who's on the show tonight, finally, after 12 years, they have a new cabinet, a new CPS system, and she is showing that they're corrupt. And she has an ombuds person, and she is going to try to see her daughter. She knows it's been too long. She doesn't want to traumatize her daughter, but she wants to have touch with her daughter because I know what it is to lose a daughter. Every day, my daughter's 22 now, and she's still messed up. She was abused in foster care. She's living with my oldest daughter. And my son still see her. So they're still in touch in there. But CPS in Orange County was the worst that I know. And
They're
that's
so
first.
bad. They're so bad, Bob, that I requested for a long time a CFT meeting. I don't know if you know what a CFT meeting is.
No, I don't. That's something. What is that?
A CFT meeting, I was told by a mentor that advocates for parents in the court hearings for dependency, that a CFT meeting in Orange County is a child family team meeting. And the parents can request this meeting to address any issues or have any questions. So I finally got an appointment to have a CFT meeting and have a facilitator. And I was to be there. The dad was supposed to be there, the caregiver and the children. I believe the social workers too. This was uh, scheduled on Wednesday at 6 p.m. When I finally got to the correct building, it was 6:26. They started the meeting at 6:30. I waited in the lobby for an hour and 10 minutes. They never called me in to attend my own meeting that I requested. They left me in the lobby outside and refused to allow me into the meeting. And that's how corrupt these people are. I kept emailing them, calling them. I'm here in the lobby. The receptionist kept telling them I was in the lobby. I called the maternal grandmother, the dad, texted them, hey, I'm in the lobby. Did the meeting start already? And nobody would give me an update, including the social workers. And they had the meeting without me, the mom. So
Well, is that like a is that a casa?
I don't know if it's from CASA, but there was a facilitator there. And she came out and she told me the meeting was over. And I said, well, I've been here for an hour waiting in the lobby. And the sheriff is telling me that the building is closed now. And she said, well, the meeting is closed. I asked her, what time were you notified that I arrived? And she said, it doesn't matter. I said, well, it does matter because I was here at 6:26 and the dad told me that you started the meeting at 6:30. So why wasn't I called upon? And she didn't want to help me. She was very dismissive and rude. But this is what CPS does. This is what they do. They're very corrupt. They lie, and they lie, and they lie. And I have so much proof that they are dishonest and they don't have integrity. They will cover up for one another when they are found to be lying or making an error. But again, I don't believe this is about saving children or for their benefit. This is about money to them. This is about money. This is about taking children from parents that are vulnerable or marginalized families in order for them to make money off our children.
Now, are you sure about the letters? Is Charlie Papa Charlie? Is that the CPC you're talking about?
CFT.
Oh, CSP. No wonder I couldn't find it. I'm trying
Yeah,
to.
C
Uh,
as in Charlie, F as in Frank, T as in Tom. CFT meeting.
that's CFP.
T. T as in Tom.
Oh, it stands for the Child and Family Team. It's a group of people who work together to support a child and their family. CFTs are a key part of California continuum of care reform efforts. Is that what it sounds like?
Yes.
They're made of a variety of people, including the child or youth, a DCS specialist, and their caregiver, a behavioral representative. I never heard of that until right now. They're used to strength based on recognizing that families are expert in their own lives. See, I've always said studies have shown that the biological parents are the best parents to raise our children.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
And there is nothing that will dispute that. And they use a tool called the Child and Adolescent Needs and Strengths, CANS, to help organize information to make decisions. CFT is responsible for assessing, planning, intervening, monitoring, and refining our service over time. They meet in structured meetings, with the first meeting taking place as soon as the child or youth enters the system. They bring together loved ones and experts to support the child and reaching their point. So was your daughter there?
So my three children were there, and the caregiver, and the dad, and the social worker. except for me, but I'm the one that requested the meeting. They left me in the lobby for an hour. Then they started the meeting without me.
Oh my goodness, because they probably are afraid of you, I guess.
It's so sad that a mother that shows that she loves her children, that she's willing to advocate for her children, that she will uh, question workers and be assertive to ensure that things are being done correctly, is seen as the bad guy. Is
Yeah.
slandered as someone that is the bad guy. Which, if you're a bad parent, you wouldn't care. You wouldn't show up to the hearings. You wouldn't request meetings with social workers and their supervisors, and you wouldn't request CFT meetings. You wouldn't, show up to your visitations. You
Yeah.
would just not care. But apparently, if you care, then you're a threat to them. If you're exercising your rights, you're a threat to them.
Well, it's very important you let Vincent Davis know all these things. The medical report from Chalk Hospital, the failure of them to show and produce a warrant because they illegally took your children. If you give them permission, see, there's three ways they enter the home. Either you give them permission, or there's intimate danger taking place, violence with the child, such as arguing in front of the child, fighting each other. Two people. I mean, like two brothers or a man and a wife, or whatever, fighting in front of the children. That's wrong, and they will enter it. If the children are being hit against the wall or strangled or anything else, social worker and the police enter it. The third way is a warrant, and the warrant's got to be signed by a judge, and the judge doesn't work on holidays or weekends, so you got to be careful of the date. It's got to be a wet signature with an embossed stamp that raises the signature so they can't forge it or make copies of it. It's got to say your name and all the people concerned, the children's name, the allegations, the address, and also the date and time they can come to your place and what they can do.
Right. I mean, the thing is, they lied so much in these reports. I went today to pick up from my public defender a 300 plus page packet of all their lies. And they stated that my son, my 8-year-old, was in the room when this occurred. He was sleeping in the other room. It was 1 a.m. He was sleeping in the other room. So they said that he was in imminent danger because he saw this. And so they will lie. They will put in the report lies. And I said,
Well, if
my
you know
son was
now,
not
you
in
would
the
never let
room.
them in the house. Period. That's the rule number one, because too many people have been killed answering the door. I don't know if you heard about Roger, a black airman in Gainesville, Florida, that the sheriff shot him 5 times in the chest when he opened the door, or the black lady that was on the news where the sheriff
Yes, I do.
fired 5 times in her face
I
and
saw
she's
that
dead.
video.
And then the Korean lady that has a mental problem, and she was killed by 2 policemen. There's been recent there. So I tell people, you don't have to answer the door. You can go to your email and go to your voicemail. They can leave a card and you'll follow up. Doesn't mean you will not talk to them. You just will follow up with your attorney,
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Oh, and they
so
were really pissed off when I pleaded the fifth.
when you plead the fifth,
Yes.
well, you don't have to plead the fifth. In fact, you don't have to say anything to them. You can say, my attorney's not present. This is timeout. I need to get a hold of my attorney. We'll see you when my attorney shows up. You never have to talk to social workers. It's best not to, because
Yeah, I
everything you
agree.
say will be used against you. But I think you have a strong case. You have the Chalk medical report that shows you there. The negative thing about your case is you got a sister that wants revenge, and you got a daughter that doesn't like you. They're 14-year-old. And those will work against you. But you can work around it because people can see it. And Vince knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. I mean, you're in the best hands tomorrow with that attorney there. Now, they may ask for a continuance if Vincent shows up. They may want to hold off or anything there. But you need to make sure. And another thing, too, you need to create yourself a notebook to keep track of everything. You need an 8.5 by 11, 3-inch thick, 3-ring notebook. Put all your court documents in there and have subject dividers. And one of the most important thing to do is your incident timeline. Your incident timeline. Every time you have an incident, whether it's with the police or CPS or your children or the school or even Mr. Dave, you write that name down and
Yeah.
you write down the date and the time and the location and who was involved. And then you do one sentence, what the incident is about, and the second sentence is the outcome. If you don't know the outcome, you come back later. But anyway, the incident can be 60, 70, 100 incidents, but it'll help you explain your case. And I always tell people that timeline is so valuable. You won't remember everything, 6 months from now. And this is going to be a long battle. It's not going to be over overnight. It's not going to be over overnight. So be prepared because, as I say, you got a lay person, your sister, who does not know about how to report or know what neglect or abuse is. That's a cop out. For all you listeners out there, be careful of lay people calling in because they're going to say things are ridiculous. Like one person didn't like the neighbor's yard, so he called on him and said his little children were left running about in the yard. Well, he has no children. So that stopped that in the face. So I'm telling you, there's a lot of things there. How did you find out about me?
I went on YouTube and searched up CPS information of dependency hearings, and you're the first video that popped up. And I mean, when you're a mom of 5 children, and my other 2 are older, so the 3 of them were my world, and they occupied every minute of my day. And you have nothing to do. I binge watched all your videos. Like, I
Well,
watched
I'm
all your
glad you did.
videos.
They're kind of like boring because I go over the same rules. There's 5 rules I talk about,
Well,
and you
they're
should
not
look at.
boring. They're not boring. They're very
Good,
informative.
good.
And you know what? Not only are they informative, but it's a lot. It's a comfort to know that I'm not the only one is going through this, and that there's other
Oh,
people that have been through this. And I would be at 1, 2, 3 in the morning just watching all your videos
okay.
on YouTube, and
Well,
just
there's about
writing down
500.
notes, writing
There's
notes down. Like,
500 mothers and fathers. There's a father up in Alaska that his wife died, and he's fighting his kids, and he's sleeping in a tent. And in Alaska, it gets really cold. That's how dedicated he is to get his children back. There are a
yeah,
lot of parents and
yeah.
so forth. And so
Mm.
my show, I bring up, I have 75 tabs opened up about anything. It's like right now, you told me something new that I just discovered. I
The
never knew about
CFT.
that outfit, and they have a thing called Casa. They also have a thing called um, um, uh, Faye knows what I'm talking about. It's the Bastion. Oh boy, help me out, Faye, if you're listening. It's the unbus person. The unbus person. You got to be careful of the unbus person and the Casa because they're listeners for CPS.
Oh,
Everybody gets a casa. You will get a casa. Your children will get a casa. And all they do is they listen and report back to CPS. So be
mhm.
wary of these support groups. They're really
Okay.
ears for CPS. CPS has no scruple. They embezzle funds. Right now, they can't explain
Yeah,
a
I'm
million
sure they.
dollars is missing in Richmond, Kentucky. There's a
Oh my
person right now
gosh.
in charge with embezzling funds. But $1 million is a big change.
Yeah.
And they will lie. They will lie. My social worker talked about her Gucci purse, her BMW car, her eyelashes, her makeup. Every week I got this bonus, I got that bonus. And their goal is to keep you and get you adopted into foster care. She
Mhm.
wants to have your daughters, there. But I'm so glad you got Mr. Davis. And listen to what he says. He
Okay.
is a kind-hearted man. It may get frustrated, but he knows what he's doing. Maybe it's like
Right.
a chess game. I don't know. I put my hands in his hands. He got back my 2 boys.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he stopped my daughter being adopted, but the social worker retaliated, and that is hard. You got to be prepared. They are unscrupulous. The
Oh yeah,
director,
they will retaliate. They will
yeah,
discriminate. They
the
will
director of
lie.
CPS, I've met him
Everything.
firsthand. He is a crook. And I can honestly say that on the air. I know that everybody's listening to me. There's 13 countries that are listening to me and over 50 states, including Washington, D.C. And in Orange County, the director of CPS. I have these ladies called the Pink Ladies. I don't know if you heard that on my
I
podcast.
saw them with the shirts that they were
Yes,
wearing.
they're professional child kidnappers in the front of their pink shirts. And on the back, they said, do you know where your children are? And they're paraded around in Walmart, Kmart, Costco, Target, all of them. And they were immediately fired. It's in Prescott, Arizona. The director was fired. But it's a shame because I left that agency with one person to handle. There is true harm be given to children. Faye has kept a memorial of 27 to 30 young children that were killed while they're in the hands of CPS, the Child Protection System in Richmond, Kentucky. She made grave markings and pictures and their deaths, 4 years old, 3 years old. So CPS is not afraid to kill your children, not afraid to take away your children. Now, I have now reached my 1 hour of my show. I'd love to talk more. I'm hoping that after you're hearing, you call me tomorrow night
Yes,
at my
I will
showtime
let
at
you
7
know what
o'clock.
happened.
And I love to hear what happens. I just wish, and God bless you for looking at my podcast. And I'm glad that something helps because it has been traumatic effect for me. I've been doing this for 15 years fighting CPS, and they are corrupt. They are corrupt. And
100%.
so you're in good hands with Vincent Davis, and he'll do your best to. They don't like him there in Orange. He's fought in Orange. He fought for my case in Orange. So they knew who he is. And he is a fighter. He's a trial attorney. And he's been doing this for 35 years. So he will get your kids back. It's going to take time and listen to what he has to say. So for all my listeners, thank you for joining me tonight. I'll look forward to hearing from you again. Faye, thank you for taking your time out of your hectic schedule to join me from Richmond, Kentucky. And thank you all to all my listeners that left me hearts and thumbs up and smiley faces and stars. I appreciate that. And make sure you check below if you want to subscribe and also if you want to be notified. Again, I'm on tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock and then again tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. That's Pacific Standard Time. Also this Friday, I'm going to come in early at 3 o'clock because my son has a football game that I'll be at. And so I want you all to make sure you put your notes down that on Friday afternoon, I'll come on at 3 o'clock. So God bless you all. Again, thank you. And this is Bob Pace and Elizabeth signing off.